Welcome into the It's Official podcast. Jeremy Plonk from Horse Player Now, First Bet and Express Bet. As we talk about 5 hot topics in horse racing each and every week. Normally in this space, I'm alongside my partner, my good friend Jeff Siegel. Jeff's going to be off here for a bit. We hope he's back in the saddle shortly. So we are flying the bus solo. If you remember going on vacation when you're a little kid, your parents told you, don't make me turn this car around. So we're going to do this on our own here, as we do with the Keeneland podcast. So I think we'll be all right over the next 30 minutes or so as we take on 5 hot topics in racing. It's a big week. The big cap at Santa Anita coming up on Saturday. Fountain of Youth Day at Gulfstream Park should be a big one there in South Florida. You've got a Triple Crown prep, the Gotham in New York. So it is high time on the Triple Crown Trail. The older horses are in the spotlight. The older horses were in the spotlight worldwide last week as well. We'll take a look at that and much more. Looking forward to the topics this week, so let's get right to it, shall we? The Goosebump Award in honor of Jeff. This is his horse who gets him excited each and every week, so I had the honors of picking the Goosebump this week, and the winner is not one horse, but 2. Forever Young and Romantic Warrior in a throwdown in the Saudi Cup, $20 million on the line. The richest horse in the history of thoroughbred racing, Romantic Warrior, against the Japanese star Forever Young, who had 2 heartbreaking noses away from winning last year's Kentucky Derby. He got the nose this time. Let's go back. The Goosebump Award, relive the Saudi Cup.
North America, the best of Europe, the Saudi Cup, $20 million, Richard Hoyles.
And they're away for the Saudi Cup, a little bit slow away, Ushbatazoro. And early on it is Walk of Stars who moves forward. Romantic Warrior jumped well and just moves off the rail to get some clear daylight and avoid the kickback. Looking for Forever Young, who's broken well and is right across the field as well. Al Musmak is racing in a handy position with Defunded through the first 200. They're being followed by Ramjet, and also there is Wait to Excel. As last year, Ushbatazoro's the one off the back end. Also towards the back at this stage is Rattle and Roll well behind as they make their way through the first 400 metres. Forever Young in the maroon colours, but it's Al Musmak towards the outside with Defunded, and right there on the running rails, Walk of Stars. Romantic Warrior tracks them in 5th place, Pale Blue racing on the inside of Wait to Excel, then Ramjet wider out, the white cap of El Código. Factor Cheval is at the back of that leading group on the outside of Wilson Tesoro. Then behind those is Intense for Me, still a gap back to Wood and Sun. Rattle and Roll well back, and Ushbatazoro as Romantic Warrior moves off the running rail as they approach the bend. So out in the lead, Forever Young on the outside, disputing it with Walk of Stars. Right round the outside, Romantic Warrior will be 5 wide into the turn, but he's poised under James McDonald as the big 2 move through. Forever Young, Romantic Warrior sweeps up on the outside for Hong Kong. They lock horns, and it's Romantic Warrior who finds most initially from Forever Young in 2nd place. The 2 of them are clear from Wilson Tesoro and Factor Cheval, 2 of the great racehorses in the world. And at the moment, Romantic Warrior holds sway. His rider looks across. Forever Young is trying to close, and he's beginning to do so. Romantic Warrior from the outside. Forever Young has got to within 3 parts of a length. Romantic Warrior, Forever Young, a race for the ages, and Forever Young.
Anytime the top 2 horses bring their A game, you know you're in for something special. But when they're at this kind of a level, the elite performance that we saw on Saturday in the Saudi Cup, one we're not going to forget for a while. As for the others behind the top 2, Ushbatazoro, Wilson Tesoro, the Japanese runners run 3-4. So Japan goes 1-3-4. As for the Americans, we only had 1 entrant. Rattle and Roll ended up a decent 5th for Kenny McPeak. Fantastic performance, but a lot of folks afterwards were questioning the ride by James McDonald aboard Romantic Warrior. Remember, he was 18 for 23 lifetime in this race. It bagged $23 million almost in U.S. dollars from all around the world, from Australia to Japan to running in his home country of Hong Kong. But he'd never been on the dirt before. So when you look at the wide trip and the early move at the top of the stretch that James McDonald employed, I think they were both good moves when you ride this particular horse, because when you talk about a turf horse on the dirt for the first time, they don't want the kickback and the abrasiveness of being tucked in and getting covered in behind horses like they would on grass. So keeping him wide is a good thing. It also allowed him to never lose any momentum. Now, the move at the top of the stretch, was it too soon? That's the kind of race that breaks open dirt races typically here in the U.S. You want to make that big move at the top of the stretch and break a race open. Think back to Gary Stevens and a lot of the great signature rides of his career. That was his signature move at the top of the stretch, busting a race open. What happened here was Romantic Warrior busted the race open, but didn't change leads down through the lane. And when the horse on the inside was able to kind of get to the outside, get the other horse in his focus again, Forever Young came with a relentless move, just like we saw the year before in the Saudi Derby with that horse, Forever Young, when he ran down Bookham Daniel, who looked like he was gone on the lead of the 1 mile Saudi Derby. The 1 1/8 of the Saudi Cup this time was just right in the wheelhouse. Forever Young, who ran the career best performance of his life in there, and maybe he'll head on next to the Dubai World Cup. That's where he's expected to resurface. Romantic Warriors probably headed back to Hong Kong. We might see him internationally, but on the grass from here out, they're not expected to run back on the dirt anytime soon. Ushpa on to Dubai, you would assume, a horse who's won the Dubai World Cup in the past, and also on to the Dubai World Cup will be Rattle and Roll, the Kenny McPeak trainee, who acquitted himself fairly well, running a decent fifth, passing some tired horses, of course, and not threatening the top end in the Saudi Cup. But onto the Dubai World Cup. Remember last year, Senor Buscador was kind of a similar quality horse in the U.S. as Rattle and Roll. He was able to put together 2 huge money trips on the road. Rattle and Roll ran 5th, not as good as Senor Buscador, of course, winning the Saudi Cup last year, but he earned his date to go on to Dubai, so we will see Rattle and Roll likely next in the Dubai World Cup. Forever Young, 2 noses short of winning the Kentucky Derby last year, but his nose fits just right in Saudi Arabia. Narrow victory last year in the Saudi Derby, narrow victory in the Saudi Cup on Saturday. That got the Goosebump Award, and it's going to be tough to beat that one the rest of the year. Let's go to our second topic this week on the big board on the It's Official podcast. David takes down Goliath. If you had Lonnie Briley over Bob Baffert at the beginning of the year in any race across the United States, you're probably given pretty good odds. Well, you got 12-1 on Lonnie Briley's upset winner, Cole Battle, who won the Rebel Stakes on Saturday at Oaklawn Park. Bob Baffert had Matticat Road. He wasn't the favorite. Sandman, the favorite, ended up 3rd in this race, but Matticat Road was running roughshod over the field early under Irad Ortiz on a speed-favoring racetrack on Rebel Day at Oaklawn Park on Sunday. It was no racing earlier in the week because of cancellations, so the track had been, working itself back from freezes and really favored inside speed throughout the course of the day. Irad knew that going into the race. He tried to bust it open. They went 45.72 to the opening half of the mile on the 16th Rebel. They only came home in 50.72. And as Cole Battle wore him down for the victory, you talk about this as in terms of a Kentucky Derby prep, the win, the loss, but you also look at this race from a what's the word we're looking for? A literary standpoint, almost. The fictional tale, the unbelievable upset when you talk about the size of a barn like Lonnie Briley going up against Bob Baffert. Let's talk about the story first, and then we'll talk about the context as it pertains to the Arkansas Derby and the Kentucky Derby moving forward. When you look at trainer Lonnie Briley, 72 years old, based at Delta Downs in Vinton, Louisiana. This is a guy who's never had more than 21 wins in a year. He's been training for about 40 years. Has never had more than 21 victories in a single year. Taking down a Bob Baffert big money horse like this. He's only had 5 wins so far in 2025, Lonnie Briley, 2 of those by Cole Battle, who now has won the Smarty Jones Stakes at Oaklawn and now back-to-back winning the Rebel Stakes. Those 2 races haven't been won in succession in more than a dozen years, so it's not common for a horse to double down on the Arkansas Derby trail like that. So really, we have to look at Cole Battle in some pretty good context just in terms of a racehorse. But for Lonnie Briley to win this race, just an exceptional story. He will be the one everyone on NBC Sports and everybody in the print media will be writing about come the first Saturday in May. Cole Battle already has enough points to qualify for the Kentucky Derby. 50 went to the winner here. He also got, 10 winning the Smarty Jones. So he's comfortably in the field for the Kentucky Derby, but he's expected back in the Arkansas Derby next in a mile and an eighth. And really, that's going to be the telltale. When we talk about these horses from the Rebel, what will they do in the Arkansas Derby, extending from a mile and a 16th to a mile and an eighth, and how that will pertain to the Kentucky Derby? That's the bigger question, because you want to compare Cole Battle to a horse like Smarty Jones just on the narrative, right? If you remember back Smarty Jones in 2004, he won all 3 big races at Oaklawn through the Arkansas Derby Series, the Southwest, the Rebel, and the Arkansas Derby. And then Sports Illustrated deemed him the horse from the wrong side of the tracks, if you remember that. Of course, he was based at Parks, Philadelphia Park, and in Bensalem, Pennsylvania. When you talk about level of racing, Parks obviously isn't the elite tracks in Kentucky or in New York or Florida, but Parks isn't Delta Downs either, So when you're talking about where Cole Battle's coming from compared to Smarty Jones, he's even on the other side of the tracks from Smarty Jones yet. So this would be an unbelievable story. Of course, he won the Jean Lafitte on 2 turns down at Delta Downs. He won the Remington Park Springboard Mile, and now the 2 big races at Oaklawn so far, the Smarty Jones at a mile and a 16th, and then back at that same trip. Can he get the mile and an 1/8 now as they move to the Arkansas Derby? That'll be the question. But the way he runs, Cole Battle looks like he's up to the test. But this was a fast early, slow late race. Again, 5 seconds difference between the first 2 quarters and the third and fourth quarters in this race, 25.72, or I should say 45.72 compared to 50.72. That's 5 full seconds. People argue between 5 and 6 lengths, 5 and 6 lengths for each second. So if we're looking at a 5-second difference, this was 25 to 30 lengths slower the second half than the first half. So this was fast early, slow late. Will these horses excel as they go to a mile and 1/8? That'll be the big question. And the other question is, when you talk about the horses out of the Rebel Stakes, what about Sandman, the 3rd place finisher, is the favorite? He had the terrible trip in the Southwest Stakes where he broke, reared a little bit to the left, spotted the field. The next to last horse, he spotted about 6 lengths and got way behind that day. Ton of traffic, troubled through the stretch, and rallied on to run second in the Southwest Stakes. But I don't know that his effort vastly improved here. He got away cleaner, but he lost touch with the leaders down the backstretch. He came with some rally. He galloped out best, but he never threatened the top horses in here. Now, some will say with that speed bias, the inside bias, that he ran against the favorable, the favorable track, if you will, at Oaklawn Park on Saturday, and that's true. But you've got a horse now, Sandman, who's 2 for 7 lifetime. Self-made excuses, racing bias excuses. You're 2 for 7 for a reason. Sandman's got to answer some of these questions. It's got to happen soon. Arkansas Derby maybe next for him. But I'm thinking if I train Sandman like Mark Casse does, I'm looking at a race maybe like the Wood Memorial, where there's not a lot of heavyweights typically going to the Wood Memorial. The track isn't blazingly fast. So for a horse who's just trying to out-finish you and not take on maybe the top-notch competition, I think Sandman's best chance to get it right might be in the Wood Memorial. We'll see, though. Casse supports the racing at Keeneland in a big degree. We could see Sandman in the Arkansas Derby. We could see him at Keeneland for the Bluegrass Stakes. But to me, I think his best race might be if they go to the Wood Memorial. So a lot of fallout from the Rebel Stakes, no doubt about that. But David taking down Goliath is the headline in there for sure. Congrats to Lonnie Briley and all the people who follow racing at Delta Downs, at Remington Park. All these regional tracks now have a homer to root for on the Triple Crown Trail, and that's good for business for everybody at various locations around the country. Once again, David takes down Goliath, our second topic this week on It's Official. Let's stay with talk about the 3-year-olds in our Triple Crown Tracker. Topic 3 on the big board this week. We had some Triple Crown point races for the Kentucky Derby around the country. Of course, we talked about the Rebel Stakes. There was also one with 30 Kentucky Derby qualifying points on the line to the winner of the Battaglia Memorial. That going on at Turfway Park in Florence, Kentucky. California Burrito got the win in Kentucky. Now 2 for 2, stretching out around 2 turns on the synthetic at Turfway for Tom Drury Jr. But the big story about the Battaglia wasn't the wire-to-wire winner so much, is who wasn't there, and that was First Resort. He would have been heavy favorite in that race, coming off his win in the Kentucky Jockey Club in the Godolphin Blue for trainer Owen Hardy. But First Resort came down lame in his rear hind leg, according to Hardy, in the days leading up to the race following his final workout. So he was forced to scratch with that lameness. And when can he get back to serious training and serious racing? Look, the clock is ticking. I know it's only late February the 25th here now. The Derby's not till the first Saturday in May, but the preps basically end the first weekend in April. How do you get a horse like First Resort to the Kentucky Derby with 2 preps between now and the beginning of April? It's a very tight time frame. In fact, I think the ship has sailed on First Resort potentially making the Kentucky Derby. Godolphin's got some other options. They've got other horses, and you look at Owen Hardy, not a trainer to push and force things over the years, rather patient trainer. So I think First Resort's probably off the Kentucky Derby trail, and that's a shame, but this is a horse who, as a 2-year-old, impressed in the Kentucky Jockey Club, but his workout tab coming into this was spotty. It's not like you couldn't have seen this coming a little bit. There were gaps in the workout tab. It did not look like First Resort was coming back to the races in great shape, and turns out the physical ailment reared its head before he got back to the races. So First Resort out probably for the Triple Crown Trail, in my estimation. I mean, could he be back for some of the races in the spring? Absolutely. But again, I don't think he makes the first Saturday in May. Other races of note last week on the Triple Crown Tracker, the Saudi Cup undercard had the Saudi Derby. The winner of that race, Golden Vekoma by the hot Kentucky stallion Vekoma. What a 2-year-old crop he had last year with his first crop, and now turned 3. Golden Vekoma, based in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. He'll head back to Dubai for the UAE Derby next, but he's not Triple Crown nominated. So Golden Vekoma, the winner of the Saudi Derby. No Kentucky Derby qualifying points were on the line in the Saudi Derby anyway, but he would have to supplement for $6,000 late. For the connection, $6,000 is under the car seats, if you will, in Dubai. So if they want to, after the UAE Derby, maybe you see a late supplement out of Golden Vekoma, but he's got another race to run. And the difference between the Saudi Derby and the UAE Derby is massive, because the Saudi Derby is a 1-turn mile. The UAE Derby is a 1 3/16, around 2 turns. So apples and oranges kind of races. He'll see if he can qualify and earn his way, I should say, not qualify, but earn his way to the Kentucky Derby through the UAE Derby, going around 2 turns. Shin Forever from Japan was runner-up in the Saudi Cup in Saudi Derby. And Shin Forever probably moves on to the UAE Derby, where he'll try to emulate last year's Japanese sensation Forever Young. He ran in the Saudi Derby, then ran in the UAE Derby. Shin Forever will try to make that path. He doesn't look to be on the same kind of level, though, that we were talking about last year with Forever Young. As for the Japanese, though, fear not. They do have a major contender, I think, for this year's Kentucky Derby that surfaced last weekend in the Hyacinth Stakes in Tokyo. This was a Kentucky Derby qualifying race worth 30 points on the Japan Road to the Derby. I believe I said earlier the Battaglia was worth 30 points to the winner. That was 20. But the Japan Road to the Derby had a 30-point race with Luxor Cafe, an impressive winner with a nice turn of foot. He's an American Pharaoh colt who's half-brother to Regal Glory, superstar turf mare for trainer Chad Brown. We know her stateside. And also he's a full brother to Cafe Pharaoh, a 2-time Grade 1 winner in Japan. And Cafe Pharaoh, his younger full brother, won that race, the Hyacinth Stakes, 5 years ago, but did not make it to Louisville for the Kentucky Derby. Nice turn of foot. Hopefully we see Luxor Cafe get 2-turn experience next, perhaps in the UAE Derby. I'd love to see that. His dam won the Mrs. Revere on turf here in the U.S. Her name, Mary's Follies. And of course, she was a 2-turn winner on the dirt as well. A lot of pedigree, a lot of excitement, and really a nice visual winner. Luxor Cafe, winner of the Hyacinth Stakes in Japan. One to watch there on our Triple Crown Tracker. Triple Crown Tracker this week turns preview mode now as we look ahead. Thursday at Gulfstream Park, a potential Florida Derby prep there. A 9-furlong allowance race in race number 8 Thursday at Gulfstream Park, where Grande for Todd Pletcher will vie for favoritism with Jimmy's Dailies for trainer Brian Lynch. Jimmy's Dailies produced some key races where horses have run pretty well coming out of those. Again, with the timing, this race is 2 days before the Fountain of Youth. So those horses are going to be basically on the same pattern from the Fountain of Youth to the Florida Derby, and they get 9-furlong experience over the track at Gulfstream. Hard to think that Thursday's allowance winner at Gulfstream won't end up in the Florida Derby if they come out of that race healthy. Speaking of the big Florida Derby prep this weekend at Gulfstream, it's the Fountain of Youth Stakes Saturday at Gulfstream Park, where Gate the Wire, winner of the Swale, was involved in that one. Burnham Square, the horse who won nicely last time out, coming from off the pace to win the Holy Bull. Those are the known stakes commodities locally. River Thames for Todd Pletcher stretches out off of 2 big wins around 1 turn. He'll go 2 turns for the first time and take on Stakes Company. And the return of Sovereignty, a horse who we haven't seen since last fall, winning at Churchill Downs in the Street Sense during the September meeting. Bill Mott trained Sovereignty. This is one whose workout tab has been spotty. There's been some gaps in it. Hasn't worked tremendously for the return. So I'm thinking Sovereignty might need a race back, and to run his best first time back would be a big ask against a good field that includes Burnham Square. Burnham Square is a horse who rallied to win the Holy Bull Stakes, as we just mentioned. In a year where everybody's winning on the front end, it seems like in the preps and winning wire to wire, you have to give a little extra credit to Burnham Square's win last time out.
To gain a bit of ground, Ferocious is flattening out. Off the turn in the stretch drive, Burnham Square under a full head of steam, and he runs by to take the lead with a 16th to go. Tappan Street is fired, but he's second best to Ian Wilkes trainee Burnham Square, who wins the Holy Bull going away under Edgard Zayas.
Saturday at Santa Anita, Kentucky Derby qualifying points, 50 to the winner, are also on the line in the San Felipe Stakes, final local prep towards the Santa Anita Derby. You expect Bob Baffert to be loaded in here, and he is. He has Barnes and Rodriguez. Barnes will be the favorite. He's been training well, and Baffert likes to give his horses 6 furlong works, kind of pseudo around 2 turns. We've talked about this a bunch this season and in seasons past as they prepare from 1 turn to 2 turn racing. It gives them a little bit of simulation with multiple lead changes and such. Barnes has been doing that in the morning as we take a look at his workout video. Training well, sometimes in company, most of the time in company for Barnes. He is going to be the favorite, the horse to beat, coming out of a win in the San Vicente Stakes earlier in the meet at Santa Anita. But he's never run around 2 turns. Rodriguez, his stablemate, has run very well around 2 turns. He'll be tough in there, as will Journalism, a horse I've got ranked number 1 in my countdown to the Crown rankings. Number 1, Journalism. Number 2, Barnes in a great showdown. Journalism is trained well for trainer Michael McCarthy. Now, he did miss a start earlier this year. He was going to return in the Bob Lewis in January, but he came down with a little illness, missed a couple days, missed the work, and then got back on the tab. And Michael McCarthy just decided to let's reroute this. Let's not force the action. Let's just wait for the San Felipe. But in waiting for the San Felipe, now you have to take on a monster in Barnes and a horse who's got to start at the meet already, winning the San Vicente Stakes. So he's going to give away a little bit of the newness. But why do I have Journalism ranked number 1 and Barnes number 2? The 2-turn factor. We've already seen 2 turns for the well-bred Journalism, son of Curlin out of Mopatism, who was an excellent 2-turn mare. So I think Journalism is going to excel the farther they go. At a mile and a 16th on Saturday, giving away some recency, he might be beat in this race, but I think when we get to the Santa Anita Derby, the Kentucky Derby, Journalism to me just feels a touch better as a classic distance horse. But how many times have we seen it in the past with Bob Baffert getting more out of these horses maybe than the pedigree suggests? Barnes probably will be just fine going to the mile and a quarter. As for the mile and a 16th in the San Felipe, to me, it's Barnes, Rodriguez, Journalism, 3 outstanding horses that are among the top 5 or 6 3-year-olds in this crop right now for the Kentucky Derby. Can't wait to see Saturday's San Felipe. As for the Gotham Stakes, 50 qualifying points for the Derby also on the line at Aqueduct in that one on Saturday. Jerome Winter, Cyclone State, has already returned in Saudi Arabia. Ran a terrible race in the Saudi Derby last weekend, so he's not in the Gotham. The Withers winner is a horse for Rick Dutrow named Captain Cook. He was very impressive in the mile and 1/8 Withers. He's not back into Gotham because they don't want to turn back in distance and then stretch back out for the Wood Memorial. So no Jerome winner, no Withers winner. Who do we have for this year's Gotham? No big horses really shipping in from anywhere around the country. So it's a couple unbeaten New York breds who are in the spotlight. Sand Devil was 3 for 3 impressively for Linda Rice. Had to work a little harder than expected last time. And then Sacrosanct is 4 for 4 for Brad Cox's lifetime. 7 races up, 7 trips to the winner's circle for those 2 New York breds. Something's got to give. Maybe it'll be one of those gracing the sidewalks in New York on Saturday, or maybe somebody else in the Gotham Stakes. But we know this. Captain Cook, the top horse we've seen this year in New York over the winter, is awaiting the Wood Memorial. That's a look at our Triple Crown tracker for this week on It's Official. Topic number 4 on the big board, we go to the Santa Anita Road Warriors. Now we get to the older horse division. It's Big Cap Day. The Santa Anita Handicap comes up on Saturday at the Great Race Place. A mile and a quarter. This used to be the race at Santa Anita. Now it's not even the favored son at its own racetrack within its own division. The Santa Anita Handicap has been replaced by track management by the California Crown as the big race at Santa Anita. That purse, of course, 7 figures in the fall meet in September at Santa Anita. The big cap now, $300,000, and it has to compete with big races this time of year. We just saw the Saudi Cup last week for $20 million. Dubai World Cup coming up for, 8 figures coming up next month. So Where does the Santa Anita Handicap fit into the fold? Well, a lot of times nowadays you're thinking maybe just some of the local stars hanging around for the Santa Anita Derby. The fact that we've got two really good road warriors traveling west on Saturday makes it newsworthy to me, in that you've got Brad Cox sending out Hit Show off a win in the Louisiana Stakes last time out, and Lock going west off a runner-up in the Pegasus World Cup at Gulfstream for trainer Todd Pletcher. Not only are we talking about horses coming west, but we're talking about Mega Barnes, Pletcher, Cox sending horses to the West Coast. That's a good sign. Hit Show looked good last time out, winning the Louisiana Stakes down at Fairgrounds.
Has taken the lead from Track Phantom, who tries to respond. Right there, Maycox Bay at the point of attack. Pipeline and Skinner tries to unwind on the far outside. They turn for home. It's Komodobino Amoide. Maycox Bay, Skinner on the outside, and Track Phantom with the rail. 3/4 in 1:13.12 seconds. 1 furlong to go. Here's Skinner, Maycox Bay, Komodobino Amoide fighting hard. With on the far outside, Hit Show, who was last on the back of the track with Laurent Giroux. It's Hit Show, and Hit Show has come right over the top to win the Louisiana Stakes from Komodobino Amoide.
Locked is coming off a second place finish in the Pegasus World Cup, but prior to that, he looked good in the Cigar Mile in New York. Let's go back to that one.
And they're off in the Cigar Mile, presented by TwinSpires.com. Right up front, it's Pipeline, who flashes early speed, and Pipeline is up with the early kick. Repo Rocks is there with the leaders as well. These two are 1-2, and just off of them is going to be Locked in Mulligan, is now taken third, and Mulligan once out of there is muscling through. It's taken that third spot as they come out of the chute. Further back at the rail, there comes Nelson Avenue, who's a shared fifth, is passing them. Comes Vinsanity, is weaving in between rivals. They're very well spread out here as they work up the backstretch. Further back, going to be mid-pack, is Locked, who's lost some ground, is to the outside here up. Coastal Mission to the outside of Bookham Dano, who's about 5-6 lengths off the pace, then post time and far back. Senor Buscador is the trailer, 22-4 for a pumped up opening quarter mile, 45.30 for the half mile time, and they work into the far turn, and Pipeline is in front. Here comes Mulligan, is coming after the leader. Repo Rocks just lost some ground, was passed by Vinsanity. Locked is in pursuit. Nelson Avenue is splitting rivals, is taken fifth. Coastal Mission is the gray out wider. Post Time and Bookham Dano, they travel as a pair, and still far back, Senor Buscador is going to have to pass them all. It's Pipeline in front, and Pipeline's trying to pull off the upset. Mulligan is in full pursuit here on the outside, and Mulligan has taken the lead. It's Mulligan in front. Locked is within range and is on the grandstand side. Here comes Locked after Mulligan. Mulligan is in front. Locked catching with every single stride, and Locked and John Velasquez have run right on by, and Locked will win the Cigar Mile, presented by TwinSpires.com. It was Mulligan second. Post Time flew on, got third, then came Coastal Mission in 1 minute 34.52 seconds.
Big Cap Field on Saturday includes Miramani, impressive recently for trainer Bob Baffert, as well as the 2022 Santa Anita Handicap winner Express Tour, looking to get back on track. We've got a big race coming up Saturday at Santa Anita, part of a multi-stakes card. Check it out. The Santa Anita Road Warriors this weekend, though, are Hit Show and Locked heading west. And we wrap up our podcast each and every week with our Stars of Tomorrow segment, who's coming out of the maiden or allowance ranks that you're going to be talking about tomorrow in the big stakes races. How about Cornucopian for Bob Baffert? This was an easy one this week. What a Blitzkrieg winner he was on the undercard Sunday at Oaklawn Park on the Rebel Stakes Day. When Baffert travels and brings a horse for a maiden race, we call him the beer money horse. He's going to help pay the expenses on the road trip, and he paid for all the beer and wine on Sunday. Cornucopian blitzed him coming home fast. 109.92 for 6 furlongs, 11.91 over the last eighth of a mile, 11.61 over the final eighth. So the final 2/8 of a mile, 11.91, 11.61. Exceptional come home time for Cornucopian. He's a half brother to Garana, multiple grade 1 winner. Also Beatbox, a grade 2 winner on the turf. So a lot to like with Cornucopian. His second dam, of course, the Breeders' Cup Distaff winner, Pleasant Home. How far will he go? How quickly will they put him into the Triple Crown pursuit? We're about to find out out with Cornucopian, but he looks like an absolute prospect at this point. The connections, the conglomerate ownership group, Bob Baffert, they've got plenty of horses to go towards the Triple Crown this year. So maybe they don't have to force things with Cornucopian. Maybe they can stay short and play long game with him, because this is a horse, if you could get a future bet right now on the Haskell at 1 1/8 in the summer, Cornucopian looks like he is an absolute future star. He's our star of tomorrow this week on It's Official. Let's review the topics on the big board this week. We started with our Goosebump Award. It was Forever Young and Romantic Warrior throwing it down with that 1-2 exciting finish in the Saudi Cup. David took down Goliath. We talked about Lonnie Briley going head-to-head with Bob Baffert. Cole Battle reeling in the Rebel leader, Matticat Road, for the victory in that $1.25 million race. Our Triple Crown tracker took you around the world, talked about the Saudi Derby, and the horse from Japan you want to keep an eye on, the Hyacinth winner, Luxor Cafe. We previewed races like the Fountain of Youth, the San Felipe, and the Gotham. Got to look at a couple workouts as well from Watch First. And also at Santa Anita, we talked about the Road Warriors heading west for the Big Cap on Saturday. Those include Brad Cox's Hit Show and Todd Pletcher's Lock, who are going to take on the locals in the Santa Anita Handicap. And finally, our star of tomorrow for the week, the Beer Money horse, Cornucopian. Bottoms up. He was a big-time winner at Oaklawn Park for Bob Baffert and a future star for sure. That's going to wrap things up here on the It's Official podcast. Thank you for joining me this week. I'll be back on Friday with handicapper Scott Shapiro as we handicap some weekend stakes races. Looking forward to getting Jeff Siegel back in the saddle soon. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you on Friday.